Hi there, welcome back to the Alban allotment. So it is actually sunny today, which is glorious because this is the first nice day we've had since we got back from holiday in Italy. The weather has been atrocious, absolutely atrocious. We've had snow, we've had sleet, we've had hail, we've had frosts, we've had storms. We actually had a storm yesterday which destroyed quite a lot of stuff again, especially in the garden, in our new garden where we hadn't quite got everything in the right place, and it smashed a few pots where they fell off a step and stuff. Frustrating. So today it's actually beautiful, so I'm taking this opportunity to record this video, and this video will be a review of March because it is time for another review video. I can't believe it. March has flown by. I cannot believe how quickly it went. We got a lot done on the plots, but also we were moving, so we were doing a lot of packing, viewing houses. It was my birthday, we went on holiday. March was a whirlwind of a month, and I'm looking forward to hopefully soon being able to just spend a little bit more time relaxing, a little bit less time moving stuff around. So yeah, let's talk about what happened on the allotment in March. So let's talk about indoor sowing or indoor growing first. Not a lot of sowing actually happened in March. Some happened, but not a lot, because we were so busy. We did end up falling a little bit behind on our plan. We did get our Atlantic Giants. They're the Atlantic Giant pumpkins. We got those sown just before we went on holiday. We did sow a few brassicas. Unfortunately, they got too wet and they ended up dampening off, or getting dampening off disease, whatever it's called. And yeah, they just started to come up and then they just died because they got too wet. So we've tried those again just before we went, and they're looking pretty good now. We've done some kale, some sprouts, some more broccoli, and some bits and bobs like that. They came up while we were away, and they are a little bit leggy because they were on a windowsill rather than under lights. But they are okay now. They seem to be okay, so we need to pot those on soon. All of the tomatoes, the chilies, the aubergines are doing fantastically. They got a little bit too big. They were actually touching the lights, the grow lights that we have, and they got a little bit scorched. So just before we went on holiday, I lifted the top two up, the lights up a little bit, so there's a little bit more room while we were away, but now they're just too big to go under there. And also because we've moved, the whole setup has been deconstructed and the plants are just in trays with some clip-on grow lights on them instead. And they're just waiting to come down to the allotment. I'm just waiting for the frost this weekend to pass. And hopefully they can then stay down in the allotment instead. There isn't much other things to talk about with the indoor growing. The chilies are doing so well that I've had to take off some of the flowers already, and I've had to cut one aubergine flower off already as well. The tomatoes are looking very good, apart from being a little bit leggy in some cases, but overall pretty happy with the progress on the indoor growing setup, and soon there will be no indoor growing and it will all be down in the greenhouses. So in terms of plot 12, there are some big changes and some small changes. So starting with the big ones, the one you can see right behind me is the big greenhouse. We got that moved finally from plot 79 round to plot 12. Cleaned all the glass, cleaned the frame again, laid the foundation in March, started doing that at the end of February but finished it in March, and then we kind of got the frame moved in one weekend, and then throughout the rest of the week we moved all the glass round, we cleaned it and put it all back in, and now we just need to actually like dig over the soil, put the path back in, and then we can use it as a greenhouse, which is nice, which means we've now got that available for this season, this upcoming season, as well as the smaller greenhouse that was originally on plot 79, and we will eventually have the small greenhouse which is on plot 79, which we've moved from here, swapped them around, but that one doesn't have glass in it yet. But really happy with this one. We have had another storm which it survived. One pane of glass has cracked, and annoyingly it is one of those weird shaped ones on the side, on the front towards the side, but other than that, really happy with it. We also got hit with that weird sandstorm rain situation just after we finished hand cleaning every pane of glass. We had that weird sand which undid all of our hard work, so we had to then come back down with a pressure washer and blast off all the sand, which was actually quite fun because we have a battery powered pressure washer which we love to use anyway. So we also got the roof felted on the shed as well. That was a really big job, and I'm really happy to get that done. It looks pretty good. We still haven't done the trim around the actual roof to kind of neaten it up a little bit, and we still haven't done the windows. The windows are hopefully going to get done either this month or next month, and then once we've done that we can paint it, because the weather should be warm enough by then to paint it as well, which would be really nice. But the roof is looking pretty good actually. I'm really happy with it, and it's just one of those big jobs that's now ticked off the list, thankfully. And then the third big job that we got done in March on plot 12 is Fruit Tree Avenue, we're calling it. So we decided to split this back bit up where I'm sitting now. We've decided to split it up into 4 beds rather than just 2 big beds, which means we've got 3 paths down it. And the 2 beds in the middle, we've decided to put fruit trees in there, and then in between the fruit trees we have some peonies which have also started to shoot up now as well. They're looking really good. I really love Fruit Tree Avenue. It is amazing. I can't wait until we've got some of our own apples and cherries and pears, because we've never actually had any fruit trees on our plots. Oh, also, yes, that reminds me, the elderflower at the back of our plot, that is also not dead, thankfully, and has started to show some of its leaves as well in March, which is really cool. So hopefully we'll get some elderflowers so we can make some elderflower cordial as well, which I'm really excited about. Other than that, there's just been the odd kind of job here and there. We've been trying to keep on top of the weeding, at least around the broad beans, which have now started to come up down the side of the greenhouse there, starting to look a decent size. My sowing of them is more patchy than Sergio's. I'm not really sure why. Not sure whether they got eaten. Sorry about all the plasters on my hands. Apparently I'm a child and I can't chop up vegetables without cutting myself. So yeah, Sergio's broad beans look a lot less patchy than mine do, but they are still coming up anyway, and hopefully we'll get some broad beans on this plot soon as well. The onions are also doing really well at the front of the plot. We've covered those now as well, just to protect against leaf miner, because I know on this side of the site at least there has been some reports of it, and I want to make sure they don't get in to the soil. They're starting to come up, and next to that is the garlic, which are looking so good. I'm so excited about the garlic this year. They've been covered for a while, obviously. All of the coverings on this plot have survived all the storms, which is also very nice. And the garlic, especially the elephant garlic and the garlic that I sowed direct towards the end of the year, just before Christmas I think it was, that is now looking really healthy. It all looks really stocky and really healthy, but you can tell the difference between the stuff that is direct sown and the stuff that was in modules for quite a long time before we had a space to put them. But it is looking like we will actually get some garlic this year, so that's really exciting, and we didn't get any last year, so just a couple would be great, but secretly hoping we get an absolute ridiculous amount of them to make up for the fact we didn't get any last year, and hoping there will be a really, really big size as well, because the ones we've been buying from the supermarket are useless. They're so small, you have to use like 10 garlic cloves to make up for the fact that they're so small. Anyway, that is kind of plot 12. I think there's not much else to talk about at the minute on plot 12, so we'll talk about plot 79 next. So on plot 79, not a lot has actually changed in terms of the actual plot itself, but we do have some more stuff in the ground, which is really nice. The wildflower patch is starting to look really good. Lots of little tiny seedlings coming up, and at least one of the echinops, the globe thistles that we put in, is starting to get a little bit bigger as well. The other one's not doing quite so well, but just going to leave it. Hopefully it will be all right. If not, we can maybe just get another one or just spread this one when it eventually gets too big. But we have been putting some stuff in the ground. So we pre-sprouted some broad beans at homes just to get them like germinated. And then we've just put them in the no-dig beds that were around the original greenhouse on plot 79. They came up quite quickly as a result of that, and they were also fleeced just to try and warm them up a little bit and help them come up earlier. But unfortunately we took the covering off a little bit too early, and some birds or something pulled out a few of the shoots, and a few of them died or wilted before we could put them back in the ground. So we've recovered those in some fleece hoops instead. They seem to be doing pretty well under there. And then we also have started to put the stuff out that we have had in modules. So we had a few broad beans that we've had in modules. We had 2 root trainers full, 2 sets of root trainers full, and we've put one out already. The others have been waiting to go out because we went on holiday. They're definitely ready to go out though. The ones that we did put out before we went on holiday, just before we left, even though they're quite big plants, they also got pulled out, and we didn't catch anything on our cameras doing it, so we don't really know what's causing it. but we covered them just before we went on holiday, and nothing has happened since. So it's hopefully just a bird and not just somebody being malicious. Next to those broad beans along the edge, we've put 2 different sets of peas. One is the green Hurst green shaft, which were germinated just in modules at home, and they were always looking really good, and even in the ground now they're looking really good as well. But on the other side of the bed, there were some Blauschocker pre-sprouted peas, which were also done in modules, but they were way too leggy before I put them properly into the modules, because I pre-sprouted them and then they weren't under lights properly, and they've just kind of been sitting in the greenhouse looking a bit sad, and I've just been eating the pea shoots from them. Thought I would just try putting them in the ground on the other side. They don't look great. I'm not sure if they're going to take properly, but we'll leave them for now because we don't need the space, but we'll just have to see what they do. And then we've also moved the rhubarb that was from this plot back onto plot 79, because the one my mum gave us sadly died in the flood. So we've put it in the same place because it's really the best place for it if it doesn't flood. If it floods, we would have to dig it up and move it again. But hopefully for this next couple of years at least, it will be fine there. And we'll just have to see, because it's a really good place for it behind the seating area, because it's obviously quite a low plant that takes up quite a large amount of space. So it will be low down, won't block any light to the seating area, but it'll be behind it where we don't really need to go very often. We obviously moved the frame from the old small greenhouse frame from this plot on plot 12 to plot 79 in place of the big one. We've decided to put that facing a different direction, so that the door is facing out, because the length of that greenhouse is the same as the width of this greenhouse. So it takes up the same width-ish in the plot, it just doesn't go back as far, which means we can still have those nice beds down the side of it. And then we'll just have a bigger space at the back, which we can split up and hopefully put our pumpkins there this year, and our squash and stuff. We will be direct sowing some hopefully soon as well, once we're not too worried about frosts. And then other than that, there's just the greenhouse stuff, which is all looking really good. The strawberries are very happy. They probably need to go somewhere soon. The sweet peas that we sowed throughout the winter, they are looking really healthy. Actually, they've recently just taken off and they need to go in the ground. We're thinking probably this year they will go around the seating area where they can climb up that frame, because there's not a great place for them here just yet. And then we may have some more dotted around, maybe some around the shed here as well, but we haven't fully decided yet. And then there's just a few, oh yeah, the sunflowers. So I did a really early sowing of sunflowers because February was so mild, and in March they obviously took off because of the really lovely weather that we had, especially towards the end of March. But then there were a few overnight frosts, as there always is in March and April when it's a nice, clear, sunny day, and then in the evening, like even right now, the sun has gone in and I'm actually quite cold. As soon as the sun goes in, or as soon as it's nighttime, if it's a clear day, it's really cold, and we have had a few frosts, and there's another one forecast for tonight and I think tomorrow on Saturday. But the sunflowers I was worried about wouldn't survive. They're completely fine, which actually gives me some hope that we can do this every year if we don't have any really hard frosts. And because we save all of our own seed from our own sunflowers, we get so many seeds, it really doesn't matter if they die off and we have to try again. We'll just keep trying until it's too late to keep trying. I also need to direct sow some sunflowers because they also do a lot better when they're direct sown, but I just haven't done that yet this year. But the things that did get hit by the frost, well actually there's only one major thing, and that is the campsis, which I thought was dead, and it's just been kind of hanging out in the greenhouse looking a bit dry and ropey. That started to shoot in March in the greenhouse because the weather's been so nice, but then we had some frosts and it just completely took out the foliage. But it is bouncing back again, so I'm not too worried about it at all really. And then there's just a few other bits and bobs. I did some more sowing of sunflowers, some nasturtiums, which I don't think have shown up yet, and also some more sweet peas as well, just because we have loads of saved seed. Even the nasturtiums and the sunflowers is all saved seed so far this year. We do have some bought seed for nasturtiums, which we'll also do later when there's less risk of frost, and we're also going to be inundated, I think, with them at the onion patch on plot 12, because that's where they all self-seeded, and then we just covered them in compost at the end of last year. So yeah, all in all, pretty positive news on most plots. Haven't been too hit by the bad weather or the frosts. The frame on plot 79 did actually, barking dog, did actually move, but in the wind, but thankfully there was no glass in it, so it doesn't really matter. The guy's laughing at me. But yeah, so that is plot 79 in March. Sweetie pie. They're gorgeous. Hi. There we go, that's March's review. There's a couple of things actually that I may have missed off there. One of which is that we finished all the burning on plot 12 as well, actually. So we had obviously all that wood left over from the old sheds that we dismantled, and we only have until I think the end of April that we're still allowed to burn on this plot, on this site. But we thankfully got through all of that in March as well. I just went for it in one day, and our incinerator is now just completely shot. So thankfully we got it all done just before the incinerator gave way. But yeah, that's it. But anyway, some positive news really all round. Bit nervous about the size of the tomatoes and stuff because they do need to come down to the greenhouse, and I'm worried we will end up having a few frosts that will kill them off. But the forecast does look pretty good from this weekend, and maybe we'll just leave them in trays so that if we need to shuffle them into the car just for a few days and bring them back to the house, we can do that. But anyway, that is much. I hope you enjoyed it. And I also am aware as well that our videos haven't been too varied recently. I quite like the fact that we have a staple for videos. So we have the review of the month, we have the seeds for the next month, and the 2 plot tours as well, which are quite nice staples. But I did also want to mix in some others. So I have already started editing a video for doing the benches in the shed, the workbenches that we've been building from scratch. There'll also be one for the windows that we're doing, stuff like that. But because we've been so busy with moving and trying to keep on top of all the jobs that we've got going, I've just been keeping up with these 4 each week. But I do want to try and do some others, and if I can get the confidence up as well, I'd like to start doing a few more vlog style videos as well. But please bear with. Hopefully the videos will start to turn out a bit better as we get a little bit more settled, and as soon as we keep on top of the jobs that we've got going. But I hope you enjoy it. And to those of you who have subscribed, thank you very much. It means the world to me. I do see the numbers going up every day, and it is really lovely to see, and it keeps me motivated to keep going. So with that said, thanks very much for watching. And from me, Sergio and Poppy, take the best of care, and we'll see you again in the next video. Thank you. Bye. But then, start again. Hi there, welcome back to the Alban allotment. So it is, no, allotment, I've got something in my eye. Very bright today. It's almost too bright. There's a chainsaw. It's a very loud site.